Why are we discussing things we can't control again? Hmm. I think it's more a matter of getting an understanding of what is actually going on. What is actually going on? Because we're being fed narratives left and right. Okay. So, what I'm concerned about is behind the narrative, what's actually going on. If you want to talk about what we can control, well, that's going to be your emotions. Sounds like you're coming from one of those places to me personally. And also, what you're going to do with your money. And most of the time, I'm going to be honest, what do you do with your money based upon what's happening in the news cycle? Anybody have some guesses of what I'm going to do with my money based upon what's happening in the news cycle? To be honest, very little, right? But what I am going to do is I'm going to keep looking at what's going on behind the scenes. I'm going to look at what's happening with the Treasury General account. I'm going to look at what's happening on chain if it's crypto, and I'm going to make decisions based on that. But I'm going to know what the narrative is, right? Because what I think gets under thought about when it comes to how to think about what's happening in markets is like if you don't know what the narrative is, then you can get caught off guard when things don't go your way, and you can get on the other side, right? So, matter of everybody's asking for book recommendations all the time. You guys want a book recommendation? Give me a second. I'll give you a book recommendation. I'm about to move, everybody, so I don't have all my books behind me anymore. I'm gonna have to ebook it. Book recommendation: Market Wizards by Jack Schwager. Okay, and this is, I think, the first one. I don't even know, but I think there's a couple of these. So, anyways, the reason I pulled this out is because you made me think about it, my guy, Tesla Tekka. Let's talk about it real quick. Because when it comes to what's happening in the markets and what can I do about it, there was a really cool interview. And so this is a book of interviews of some of the top traders, investors in the world. And he asked them, what's their sauce? Give me the sauce, right? So let me tell you what's one of my favorite interviews in here was. If we go to, I think his name is James B. Rogers. Let me find James B. Rogers. James B. Rogers Jr. Anybody heard of James B. Rogers Jr. before? James B. Rogers Jr. is the right-hand man of a guy who you might have heard of called George. His first name is George. His last name is Soros, okay? And he had some really cool words to say, and I just kind of related to something that you brought up there, because it's not always about like, oh, what can I do right now? Or why are we talking about stuff that we can't do anything about? Well, let's talk about what we can know and how we can use that information to influence our decision making. So the cool thing about what James B. Rogers said, so let me just read a little bit of an excerpt from this. So James B. Rogers Jr., buying value and selling hysteria. Jim Rogers began trading in the stock market with a paltry $600 in 1968. One of my favorite things that I learned from this book was how markets have fundamentally changed over time. And when I say that, I don't mean like markets aren't markets, because markets are markets. But what I'm saying is the way that they would take advantage of opportunities in the market is very different from how you do it now. Like you had much more volatility, you had much less professionalism in the markets, and you didn't have any algorithms. You know what I'm saying? Like in the markets that you're competing against. Nowadays you do. And with that, you have to be a little bit more algorithmic. These guys, they could just like have some ideas like, oh, I think this is undervalued. I think it'll go up, and just put on a trade and leave it for 3 months and it'll do well based upon real fundamentals. Nowadays, things don't really work on fundamentals in that same kind of way. So instead, we've got to, in fact, this is back to my point. You actually have to know what people are thinking. You have to know what the sentiment is, because that, unfortunately, is a lot of what drives the actual movements in the markets today, is what's in the headlines. And when we look back to March, when we look back to April of earlier this year, guess what? I wrote a little bit of a memo where the markets were tanking, and I called it. I called it right then. I said, this is the end of that, because what happens from this point forward? Let me read some of this stuff, because it's going to actually point out what I'm trying to get at. So, all right. Okay. So Jack Schwager asked him, it sounds like you have a great deal of conviction when you put on a trade. This is to James B. Rogers, the right-hand man of George Soros. These guys together had a day where they made over $1 billion in one day. All right. I have a whole video on this on my channel, but it's called, I don't even know what it's called. Look at it. So it sounds like you have a great deal of conviction when you put on a trade, says Jack Schwager. James B. Rogers Jr. replies, yes, I usually do. Otherwise, I don't bother doing it. One of the best rules anybody can learn about investing is to do nothing. Absolutely nothing. Unless there's something to do. Most people, not that I'm better than most people, always have to be playing. They always have to be doing something. They make a big play and say, boy, am I smart. I just tripled my money. Then they rush out and have to do something else with that money. Mm, 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 mm. They can't just sit there and wait for something new to develop. Now, he's not just sitting there and doing nothing. All right. He's sitting there and he's taking in data. He's taking in information about what is going on in the news, in the markets, and where can he find asymmetries where there's information that's not being reported. Okay. That's information that's not being understood or interpreted in the right way, even. Right. So this is another thing. Everyone, what do you do when there's nothing to do? You read books. You read books and you start to form your worldview, because then the information that you're taking in, everybody's got the same information. The question is, how are you interpreting that information? What are you doing with that information? Okay. So anyways, what's another quote here from this guy? Oh, I love this. Oh, this is such a great interview. This whole section is fire. So Jack Schwager asks, do you always wait for a situation to line up in your favor? Don't you ever say, I think this market is probably going to go up, so I'll give it a shot? James B. Rogers Jr. says, what you just described is a very fast way to the poorhouse. I just wait until there is money lying in the corner. And all I have to do is go over there and pick it up. I do nothing in the meantime. Even people who lose money in the market say, I just lost my money. Now I have to do something to make it back. No, you don't. You just sit there until you find something. Oh, and this is another part. He said, so Jack Schwager said, so trade as little as possible. James said, that is why I don't think of myself as a trader. I think of myself as someone who waits for something to come along. I wait for a situation that is like a proverbial shooting fish in a barrel. Yeah, just read this book. I won't keep doing this with you guys, but it's a great book. And let me know in the comments or in the chat right now if you've ever read Market Wizards or any form of it. If you enjoyed this, then you would absolutely love my show with Ben Levitt called Memes and Markets. We go live every Tuesday and Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern, where we go into topics like this more in depth and in real time. Click the link in the description to subscribe to Memes and Markets, and I will see you over there on Tuesday and Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern.